Hello, I'm Robin Gibson, and this is the Harvard House Money Morsel. Welcome back. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell so you get a notification of when we're releasing a new video. I'm sitting again with Michael Porter. Welcome, Michael.
Yeah, morning, Robin.
So, Michael, what a week. I think we woke up on Monday morning to an attempted assassination of Trump. We've got the Democrats looking like they're trying to gracefully exit Biden from the scene. And then last night we had Cyril Ramaphosa and the GNU talking about where they were going after their cabinet lekotla. I'm not sure if I said that correctly. How does the market see all that, and what are you guys seeing from your side?
Yeah, it has been a busy week, Robin. Quite right. Let's start with Trump. I think it's obviously there's been a few American presidents attempted to be assassinated in the US, and it's not a great development to be having that kind of violence. But I mean, America is actually a violent country, unfortunately. But Robin, I think the odds. There's various odds that are tracked. The odds of Trump winning the presidency now have gone up materially. So they're now sort of 65-70%, which is high.
Good news or bad news for us?
Well, I think that is the debate. I think some of the implications of a Trump presidency are probably quite inflationary. I think some of the policies that he wants to sort of talk about, that he's thinking about tax cuts, trade wars, one or two other policies that he's quite keen on, I think are generally inflationary, broadly speaking. And so that would have implications for monetary policy. So, how fast is the Fed going to cut rates if they think that that's going to come through? And it also then could have implications for a strong dollar. So we've been kind of saying that the dollar is going to weaken for quite a long time. Yeah. A Trump presidency could, from an economic point of view, could throw that into a little bit of not disarray, but it could question that assumption, which would maybe have implications for the rand. So, a Trump presidency, I think for us, I still maintain my belief that a Trump presidency is going to lead to a much more uncertain world in terms of foreign policy, political things. How does he support NATO? How does he support Israel? He said on Monday or Tuesday in a speech, he doesn't see the reason why the US should defend Taiwan. Now it's those kind of statements that are potentially very unnerving, and they also embolden those on the other side who are saying, who are looking for weakness to exploit their own agenda. So I do think we're going to enter a much more uncertain world, and I think it's been coming for a while, unfortunately. It's funny. I can't remember off the top of my head, who said that a week was a day is a long time in politics, or week's a long time. Yes. But, there's definitely, as you said, a move to try and get Biden out, isn't there? Yes. The rhetoric is mounting up, and he's got COVID, and, he might just suddenly be a little bit too ill, or whatever the case is.
If I'm not going to run, it's for health reasons. Not because I'm mentally not capable. Yes, I get that.
And so, I suppose, it's so unpredictable, but whether Kamala Harris runs as the Democratic candidate or whether there's another candidate, that could swing the election completely again,
Yes.
So it's interesting times. I think so what's happening in the US is unpredictable, but we can't lose sight of that, because what's happening to the dollar in interest rates is obviously the foundation that ripples through everything. But last night's SONA address was really positive. I know that the skeptics will say, well, we've heard it all before. We've heard we're going to do infrastructure, but
I think that was the commentary from a lot of it.
It is, Robin, because we have heard it all before. But you've got to feel that there's a little bit more determination to implement. And I think there were some quite nice things that came out in terms of poverty alleviation, and specifically saying we're going to relook at the fuel price formula. We're going to relook at VAT on some essential services, obviously with poverty alleviation, some of the state-controlled pricing to try and relook at. And then there was quite a lot of focus on municipalities. Now, we know that municipalities are shot in this country. We probably live in one of the few that is holding its head above water, and so I don't think anybody expects Rome to be built in a day. But you've got to start with the first step, and you've got to acknowledge the problem, and you've got to start with some resolve to say, okay, how are we actually going to start sorting out the problem?
Yes.
And if you're going to turn, to quote Cyril, South Africa into a construction site, well, that is probably the best news we've heard in a long time, because infrastructure drives growth.
Yeah.
And you enable, if we had better water, better electricity, better transport, all the costs of doing business come down, and you let the private sector thrive. And that's exactly what we need to do. So we have heard it all before, and you can be rightly skeptical about that. But I think from the point of view that we've had the election, we've had the GNU, we've had the cabinet, we've now had the sort of SONA, everything is sort of building on each other, I think. There hasn't been a chink yet, and I think there's resolve amongst the cabinet to actually, I think it's a pretty widespread and consensus view. I don't think it's a divisive sort of policy that they've put together. So I think everybody's behind it, which is pretty good. So there's room to be excited. We've said so many times, Robin, you're not going to see the benefits next week or next month, but you've got to start this journey. And if business looks at this and starts getting more confident, well, then that's going to be another lever that comes in to say, well, okay, things are changing now.
Yeah. So, Michael, putting the two together, it's not mutually exclusive to have a strong dollar and everything that's going on there, and to not have a performing South Africa. That can happen in parallel, can't they?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We might have had maybe a slightly stronger rand if the dollar was weak, but I think that the rand can outperform other currencies, other emerging market currencies, if investors get convinced that things are changing here, because foreign investment will flow in, and we haven't seen that for probably 6 or 7 years. But we're seeing the first. We were just discussing in our investment meeting this week. We're seeing the first hints of a change in the bond market. Foreigners coming back into bonds, and we've seen a rally in bonds. They haven't really participated in equities yet. I think there's probably a bit of rotation, but not net new money coming in. And feedback from JP Morgan, who were visiting their clients in New York and the US, was like cautiously optimistic on South Africa, but more cautious and optimistic. So foreigners are still kind of looking on from the outside and saying, okay, we're taking note, but we're not convinced yet, which is fine. Let us position ourselves how we want before they come and move the market.
100%. And then, Michael, we didn't touch on this, but MPC, no rate cut yesterday, but 2 of the committee wanted a cut.
Yeah, I think, Robin, definitely. September's got to be lined up for a cut now. And funnily enough, just 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months, 6 weeks ago, the market was only looking for 50 basis points of cuts across the whole cycle. Yeah. Now the market's pricing in 100 basis points of cuts again. I think there's lots of stuff happening in the background, Robin. I think that's quite positive. But I think definitely if we don't get a rate cut in September, something dramatic has to happen between now and September not to get a rate cut. Yeah. Like, the oil price has got to go to $95 or $100 a barrel or something like that. Hopefully not.
Yeah. Awesome. Michael, thanks for giving us those insights. There's certainly been a lot to talk to. We've taken a lot of time today. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.